ready to reimagine the future of humanity and unlock your true potential. Welcome to Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, hosted by Dr. David Gruder, an internationally renowned integrative psychologist, human potential expert, author, and social change catalyst, as he delves into the most urgent issues of our time. With the world facing unprecedented challenges and social and political divides growing deeper, it's time to take action. Each episode of this groundbreaking series will empower you with invaluable insights, strategies, and tools to heal these divisions and restore personal freedom and societal well-being. Whether you're a concerned citizen, a courageous leader, an influential figure, or an ambitious entrepreneur, Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours will guide you on a transformative journey. Discover your unique role in creating a brighter future for yourself and society at large. Dr. David Gruder will draw upon his extensive knowledge and experience to provide practical solutions for shaping the world we live in. With his passionate exploration of social change, he will help you navigate through the complexities of our time and inspire you to make a meaningful impact. So, prepare yourself for an eye-opening experience as we delve deep into the heart of the matter. Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours will challenge your perspectives, ignite your imagination, and equip you with the tools you need to reimagine and redefine the world around you. The time to transform our future is now. Join us on this incredible journey and enter a new era of possibility. For more information on Dr. David Gruder and the Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, visit www.rhfy.ca. Welcome to Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, where together, we create a brighter tomorrow. Now, here is the host of Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, Dr. David Gruder.
Well, welcome back to the Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours show on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Dr. David Gruder, the polymath of human potential, societal psychotherapist, and futurist, who equips leading-edge leaders, influencers, helping professionals, and you with impactful resilience that makes it possible for humanity's most spiritually elevated future to at last emerge. The title of this episode is The Future of Intentional Impact, Crafting Ripples of Legacy. What are your best next steps toward living your most purpose-filled life? Guest Jeff Nischwitz offers his wisdom on how all of us can consciously create ripples of positive impact. Discover how to refine your personal vision and mission and more fully embrace your unique legacy so you can make a more meaningful difference regardless of status or recognition. Legacy is not just for celebrities, executives, influencers, and philanthropists. Everyone can do this. Now it's your turn. Jeff Nischwitz, the snow globe shaker and founder of Think Again Leadership, is a leader development coach, international speaker, and author of 5 books, including Snow Globe Leadership, Shaken, Not Settled. On a mission to spark ruckuses in leaders' hearts and minds, he's known for asking provocative questions and providing growth-sparking perspectives that drive personal growth and optimize leadership to catalyze lasting impact. As a certified leader in the Mankind Project, Jeff orchestrates men's retreats worldwide, which guide participants on heroes' journeys toward fuller authenticity, more intentional living, and more meaningful legacy. He also offers a wide range of resources through his Nischwitz Group website to guide men and women in fine-tuning and boosting their ripples of positive impact. Yay, Jeff. Welcome to Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours.
Thank you, David. Wow, both those people sound really impressive. This Dr. Gruder and this Jeff Nischwitz guy. I'd love to meet them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to finally meeting them too. Well, in this first segment, we'll look at symptoms people experience but might not recognize are clues about confusion about the impact they're capable of having and the legacy they're capable of leading. But first, Jeff, how did you initially get interested in legacy building?
Like most things in my life, I got interested by looking in the mirror, David, looking at my own life. And it's been a journey like everyone. I think mine's been perhaps more intentional than some. But I thought a lot about legacy, and this is probably could be a whole nother topic, but I grew up in the shadow of legacy. That was a jump starter for me. My father, back in Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, where he grew up and I grew up, was a very well-known man, and very, very well known for good reasons. He was a superstar high school athlete. He went on to play college baseball, an All-American, went on to pitch professionally in the major leagues. He started a business. He started several nonprofits. So I spent a lot of my life hearing this question: do you know Ron Nischwitz? Are you related to Ron Nischwitz? Or you must be Ron's son. And that was really a starting point for me. I call it the reality of parental shadows, because my father absolutely has this objective legacy, and some of it's subjective, but people will know him. And I think inside there was this drive to have that kind of legacy. And at some point in my adult life, I started thinking about, and I'll be honest, David, not in a healthy way, I need to have a palpable legacy to feel better about myself. Thankfully, having done a lot of work inside, from the inside out, now I'll call it commitment to legacy, is for the legacy itself, for the impact that relates to that. And I'm deeply unattached now. In fact, one thing I would say, and I'll wrap up this answer, is that when I think about legacy now, I'm good with whatever legacy exists from the ripples I've already created. And if there's more, that's great. If today's my last day, perhaps this recording is the last ripple, I'm good with that. And I also know that for most of us, including me, most of my legacy, I will never understand or know, because the ripples are not meant to be known. That's the thing. We're not supposed to know how it comes out. But what I do know is how intentional and thoughtful and purposeful I am with those stones of ripples.
I love everything you've said. I love your story, and maybe we'll be able to devote a couple of minutes in the second segment to going a little bit deeper into the reality of parental shadows as one of the root causes of issues people have around legacy. And so in the next segment, we'll get into root causes of what blocks people from optimizing their impact and leaving their best legacy. But first, as I said, I want us to focus in this segment on the big pain points you found in people wanting to generate ripples of impact.
Yeah, I think the pain point shows up in whether it's parentally driven or culturally driven. I really believe that everyone at some part of themselves, conscious or unconscious, has this desire to have meaning in the world. And whether we label it legacy or just, I get it as simple as people want to know that their being here mattered, that something about their existence in this realm mattered. There's a lot of people have a fear of dying, and I don't think it's really a fear of dying. I think it's this fear of dying and not having mattered. I don't think people talk about it that way, but that's the sense I get from interacting with my clients, with my friends. There's this deep desire to matter, to have their life mean something beyond themselves. And I think so that's the driver. But underneath that, the way I would phrase it is some version of who am I? Who am I to have a legacy? That, legacy is for just all those lists you made, people in positions of power, influencers, celebrities, and the people that we resonate with as having legacy tend to be famous people. And then I translate that and I say, I could never be like them, or I have to figure out my life in order to be them. I wish I had the time to be them, instead of just saying, I just want to be me and be more purposeful every day in what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, what I'm saying, how I'm interacting, how I'm connecting, how I'm relating, all of those things. And then trusting that I will matter in these micro moments, but driven by an intentionality to create ripples.
Hmm. Well said, and you've said a mouthful, so I want to take a minute to underscore and unpack some of what you said for the sake of our audience. So everyone, I agree with you. Everyone has a desire for meaning, regardless of whether they call it legacy, that people want to know that their being here mattered beyond themselves. And, I talk a lot about our three core drives as human beings that we're wired with, we come in with. We see them in the youngest of children: the drive to be who we truly are, which is authenticity, the drive to bond with others, which is connection, and the drive to influence the world around us, which is impact. And if we're not in integrity with one or more of those three core drives, we're not going to feel sustainably happy or sustainably fulfilled. So, the pain point is, maybe I don't matter, maybe I have no ripples of impact. And another pain point that you brought up was the question of, who am I to think that I can have a legacy if I'm not well known? And you and I both know, being in the leadership space, among other spaces, that the most fundamental form of leadership and impact there is role modeling. And we're always role modeling something. And people often don't realize that what they're role modeling in any given moment is generating ripples of impact that have influence on their legacy.
Well, it's interesting. There's this interesting dynamic of the word impact, because here what we're talking about in terms of legacy is moving towards more intentional impact, perhaps impact by design, even though I may not see the impact, but I'm being really intentional about what I'm seeking to create. The other side is what you talked about, is from the modeling perspective. I believe this in my core now, that my leadership, not positional, my leadership in life, just how I show up, is ultimately going to be judged, assessed, and my legacy determined by the impact I have on others, intended and unintended. And that piece of, part of stepping into leadership, which is really just stepping into our fullness of in our lives, is the acknowledgement that people are watching. And I think if I were to say to leaders, the biggest thing, I'm going to say two biggest things they can focus on, is number one, owning the fact that their leadership is defined by their impact, not their intention. And number two, to embrace more intentional modeling. Too often, especially positional leaders, like to tell people how they want them to be rather than modeling how they want them to be and inviting them to follow that model, which is where we run into this challenge of the leader is saying, be this, they're modeling something else, and the people around them say, wait a minute, you asked for this, but you're showing me this. And of course, trust goes down, influence goes down, intentional impact starts to disappear.
Mm-hmm. Well, so the rest of this, I agree completely. And I think we'll get into some more of what you were just saying in our third segment. The rest of this episode, though, dives into the root causes of what Jeff and I just discussed, what to look for in a solution, and his version of that solution. After a short break, my ruckus creating guest, Ripples of Impact expert Jeff Nischwitz, and I will explore what might be less recognized reasons behind why we tend to sell ourselves short about the impact we can have, or the unintended impacts we can have, and the legacy we can leave. I'm Dr. David Gruder. This is the Reimagining Humanity's Future in Your show on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, and we'll be back momentarily. Welcome back. Before the break, my guest, Jeff Nischwitz, told us about symptoms people commonly experience when they're struggling with whether they have impact and how to generate their strongest ripples of positive impact. And in this segment, as you already know, we'll delve into under-recognized root causes of our blocks to having impact. So, Jeff, what are those most overlooked root causes?
Well, I think the one that comes to mind that is the most invasive and pervasive is that pretty much I'm gonna just go bold here, David. Every human
Be the
has
snow globe shaker.
yeah,
Go ahead.
every human, whether they want to admit it or not, have some version of not good enough. Some part of themselves they doubt. And unfortunately, a lot of people pretend that's not true, and therefore it's running the show. And that's part of the problem, that unconscious, even conscious thought, but I'm buried it. I've set it aside. I haven't worked on it. I haven't tried to heal it. It's driving the show. And this concept of having impact, positive impact and legacy doesn't fit with someone who's got a voice saying you're not good enough. That's the classic, who do you think you are? And if you imagine these two voices, one saying, who do you think you are? And the other one saying, hey, let's go change the world. These clash. And more often than not, the change the world voice gets lowered or set aside. And two things happen. One is I give up. I give up on the idea of legacy and impact. I just say, I'm not that guy. I'm not that person. I am not that human. Now, if I don't give up, what happens is I hesitate because I haven't given up. And this came out on a recent gathering I was at, David. You would have been fascinated because we were in the midst of talking about archetypes.
Oh, yeah.
And to your credit, David, I want to give credit. I did a session on archetypes. I was talking about the sovereign. Before we started, someone in the audience said, have you read David Gruder's work? And I said, read it. We're going to be talking about some of this today. So there's some impact, brother. There is some impact.
I'm so glad. Thanks for telling me.
So, but one of the things that surfaced there, I knew it was there, and I just sort of brought it out, was a lot of people believe that before they have impact, before they start to work on legacy, they have to figure everything else out. And that is, I think, a bigger trap than giving up, because like you said, those core drivers, those don't get silenced. So I think fewer people give up, but too many are waiting to say, I've got to be a better person. I've got to be a better leader. I've got to be a better partner. I've got to be a better parent, a better friend. Once I get that figured out, or even more significantly, once I have more time, because they believe that the pursuit of legacy is this thing that you set into another time bucket versus it's just how you walk through your existence. And I can tell you, if I won't go into this story because it would take a little bit of time. Just on Monday, I had an exchange with the desk clerk at a hotel that I checked into for 40 minutes. I was impacted by the conversation. I know she was. That had nothing to, it had to, yes, I committed to I didn't even commit it. The time just drifted in and out. But that was just going through life and having a conversation. So our impact is not time constrained. It's not. Don't tell me you're too busy to make a difference. Are you making a difference where you are spending your time? That's my question. So you've got I can't do it because I'm not good enough, or I got to figure everything else out, or I got to have more time.
Okay. Love everything you're saying again. And I want to take a moment to unpack what you've said, because it's too good to to leave it unexplained. So every human has some version of not good enough, but many pretend that's not true. And pretending that's not true is part of what drives the show in terms of unconscious, unintended impacts. And having positive impact doesn't fit with not good enough or who do you think you are. And so, and the other thing that you were saying is you don't have to figure out everything before you choose to have impact, because the truth is we're always having impact, whether we're conscious of it or not, whether we mean to or not, and whether the impact we're having is what we intended it to be or not. So the notion that there are prerequisites to being allowed to have positive impact and pursue legacy, that that's nuts. There are no prerequisites to being allowed to do that, because impact can happen anywhere, anytime, with anyone. And not only can it happen, it always happens. So my question to you, Jeff, is what fuels, let's go a level deeper into root causes. What fuels this not good enough, who do you think you are kind of script that seems to be universally held in different forms by different people?
Well, I'd say I'm aligned with many, many, many people who are, I would argue, even more expert than me from a scientific standpoint. But from a psychotherapy standpoint, pick your poison or pick your favorite. They all tend to agree that the core formation of our core stories about ourselves all happen age 6 or younger, somewhere in there. Things happen. We can talk about trauma. We can talk about big T and little t. And I hate that discussion only because so many people say, well, I didn't have any big trauma. I didn't have this horrible thing. But we all have experiences that as children, I interpret them and how they impact me. And I look at the impact on me and I take on a message about that, about myself. So, for example, and this ties perfectly to legacy. I can't believe this, David. We haven't talked about it. I had a coaching session with my new coach recently. She surfaced something I had no idea it was this deep about. From my childhood, I had this deep need to be seen, as most children do, children being egocentric. But my family dynamic was such, it was in most ways objectively a fine family upbringing. There was no issue, there was no turmoil, there was no strife. It was normal. Yet I didn't feel seen, and I'm starting to understand why I didn't feel seen. So as a result, I took on a story that in order to be seen, I have to shine. I have to be more than everyone else. I have to be bigger than everyone else. I have to achieve more than everyone else. I have to be a high achiever, an overachiever, because that will allow me to be seen. And I will stop there, but I'm really curious, David, as we dance here, when you talked about those 3 core drivers, where does that need to be seen fit there? Because I see that so often in humans. There's this need to be seen I sense as a driver as well.
Yes. I'll answer that momentarily. I first want to add my voice to yours. I also carried a script into adulthood that I have to be better than perfect in order to be marginally acceptable.
That's pretty precise.
Yeah. And it really was the boss of me as a younger man. And so to your point, we are storytellers. We are meaning makers. And from the youngest age, we are meaning makers.
Mhm.
And so what we try to do when we have life experiences that we don't know how to turn into gold, we don't know how to properly digest and use to help expand our authenticity, our capacity for connection, and our positive impact in the world, we end up carrying an increasing backlog of what I refer to as undigested life experiences that haven't yet been turned into gold. And that indigestion runs our storytelling. It runs the story we tell ourselves about the meaning of events, the meaning of what other people do, about our own worth, about our own impact, etc. And so I think this is what feeds into this whole not good enough, who do you think you are? Because most of us end up with some kind of story that says my attempts to have impact as a child either fell on deaf ears, people had no idea what I was doing, or got shut down, or got criticized, or any of those kinds of variations. And when we have that experience, we learn not only to lock away in our shadow the parts of ourselves that we decide, rightly or wrongly, are negative, but we also lock inside ourselves parts of our gold that we discover are too much for other people. And so to hide that gold, we adopt a narrative that says some version of I'm not good enough, or who do I think I am?
Well, and I'm going to add to that. This is more, I think this maybe the seed get planted as a young person, but I see it so much in adulthood. Our culture is adverse to people claiming their gold.
Yes.
Because a lot of people are hesitant to do it, and as a result, they judge others who do. And one thing I encourage people to get in their lives is you need to have people in your life that are close to you, who know you, who get you, where you can brag to, where you can have that conversation and say, you know what, I am really brilliant at this, because out in the world, that is often not received well. And I think it's an effort for people who have that I'm not good enough story, they're going to attack and push down and judge those who are claiming that gold. Man, I wish if I could snap my fingers and change one thing, which to me, and back to the archetypes, to me would be snapping my fingers and getting people to immediately embrace and intend. That's a new phrase that hit me over the weekend. Intend their sovereign that is within them. And that's that gold piece and all the pieces that represent it. But it's culturally challenging to shine, because so many people say, tone it down. And that's why one of my favorite quotes is the quote from Marianne Williamson about our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is we are powerful beyond measure.
And that quote is actually Marianne Williamson quoting Nelson Mandela.
Well, that's a great question, because I've been looking into that, David, and maybe you've done it, as to which came first.
Oh, maybe they both came upon it.
I think that actually Nelson might have quoted her.
Possibly. But after another short break, we'll get to the heart of the matter, what to look for in a solution that can resolve the root causes of impact blocks. I'm Dr. David Gruder. This is the Reimagining Humanity's Future in Your show on the X Zone Broadcast Network, and we'll continue momentarily. And we're back. Before the break, my guest, who is just a real thought leader in legacy and impact, Jeff Nischwitz, and I delved into less recognized but vitally important root causes of why we are hesitant to have impact. And of course, there's also the crucifixion script. If I really show myself, if I really have positive impact, I'll get destroyed, I'll get attacked. So that leads to my question, which is, what ingredients should people look for in a solution to that root cause so that they can step into full positive impact in the world on a conscious, intentional level? What should they look for in the way of a solution?
Well, the first thing, David, is to just tell the truth about themselves, even if it's just to themselves to start. And that is to acknowledge that somewhere in there is that either a statement that I'm not good enough or some doubt about it. Because That which I deny cannot change. That which I deny cannot change. And what happens is a lot of times in public, even in some intimate settings where you'd hopefully have more vulnerability, people will say things like, "Oh, I don't have a problem with that." And I mean, I know them and I look at their behavior and I go, "Well, yes, you do." Because I see it. I see it playing out. So first, we've got to be honest with ourselves and bring it out into the light. Nothing, that which is left in the shadows, as you said earlier, is what's driving the show and driving the bus unconsciously, and nothing can change when it's stuck there. So number one, let's bring it into the light. Let's tell the truth. Let's own it. Acknowledge our doubts. The second part then is and this might be multiple tentacles of paths. One is do whatever the work is for you to start to get honest about that and work through it. And that could take all sorts of forms in terms of what is that personal growth work. And I'm going to say personal growth more than personal development because those words are different to me. Personal growth is I'm really digging in deep inside. Personal development is I'm fine tuning what's on the outside. That's the difference to me. Maybe semantics, but that's how I reframe it. So do some personal growth work and start, first of all, understand what that story is. Not just the end message, but what is that story? A little bit. I believe it's important to know the source of it, not so much the people, but where did this come from? Because when we're looking for a logical answer, we need to find the pieces that make it logical. Otherwise, I say things like that can't be true because it's not logical. That's what this piece recently for me of saying, oh, wow, I connect the dots. That's what's driving that need to be seen as a child that carried over into adulthood, because what I experienced as a child carries over into adulthood unless my adult goes back and rewrites the child's story. And that's tough to get our heads around because how do you go back to the child? Well, there are ways. There are ways through all sorts of resources, whether it be coaches and therapists and psychotherapists and psychiatrists. There's a lot of paths, but we've got to rewrite that story. The people that say, I just want to turn off the story, I think are doomed to fail. Because what you're doing is you're shoving it down into the unconscious, and the unconscious wins. That's the deal. The unconscious wins. And like in my coaching, I tell people, they say, what's your goal? My goal is to help people make more conscious decisions. Because from that place, now we get to action items, which is the third prong. And the simple thing is to just take that word literally, action. Get into action, take steps. Like you're familiar, and won't go into the detail, David, but the concept of ways to create a mission. And when I'm helping people do that, I tell them, look, you can look at the most famous people in the world and say, they changed the world. I can't do that. But what they did has a simpleness to it. They were passionate about something. They were committed to it, and they took action. They took action. It doesn't have to be a big action, but take action. What are the things? And I can tell you, in my opinion, when I look, I don't know if I ever get this chance. If you know the answer to this, David, please let me know. At some point, do I get to see the outcome of my life? I don't know. Maybe there is. Maybe there's a movie when I leave this realm. I don't know. The Life and Times of Jeff Nischwitz and the impact. And it'd be a pretty cool movie, but I suspect most of what I will see are things that the impact was created by very small actions. It was very small things, in particular moments, but those moments led to significant impact because it's not about the monument. It's about all the seeds that got planted during our lifetime. One seed at a time, one conversation at a time, one intention at a time, one moment of listening. It could even be so simple as one text to someone who needed that text at that moment that changed the course of a life, literally. But we don't get to find out. And that's okay. Because my legacy is not defined by what I know I created. It's defined what I know I planted with intention and trusting that was enough because I am enough.
Yes. Well, again, you've said a mouthful, and
Maybe
a
four.
mouthful. Yeah, and it's all gold. So I think you're saying the first step is in what to look for in a solution is a solution that helps you get honest with yourself, to tell the truth about yourself, even if only to yourself, about things like you're not good enough and self-doubting scripts, because whatever we deny, we can't change. And the second thing to look for in a solution is that it helps you do whatever work you need to do in personal growth, to digest the undigested life experiences you carry that generated your self defeating impact scripts. So rewrite the unhelpful stories you told yourself, because trying to shut those off doesn't work. It actually makes things worse. The
Yep.
third thing that I think you've said to look for in a solution is that the solution needs to help you take effective steps to crystallize your purpose, based on your passion, and to commit to whatever that purpose or mission is, and to get into action. The fourth you referred to in an earlier segment, but I think it ties into what to look for in a solution, which I refer to as impact literacy.
Mm.
Own that your life is defined by your impact, not your intentions. So practice modeling first. And the fifth is that a solution needs to help you remember that and embody that impact is about moments, not monuments, because we rarely know what comes from what we planted with our intention. And therefore, a solution needs to help us make peace with us following our purpose and embodying our purpose in the best possible way we know how, allowing that to be enough without getting caught in being attached to the results that that creates, or to even knowing what results that creates.
Well, talk about a mouthful, David. And if you had a microphone, we both had one to drop. You just dropped it, my friend. That phrase, it hit my body. It hit my body. Impact is about moments, not monuments. I felt that down here.
Well, good, because you said it. I'm underscoring it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. Boom. That was a boom, folks. That was a boom. Whew, that's like I can feel that working on my body right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And what you're modeling right now is the willingness to be impacted by others, or even by our own unrecognized wisdom that comes out of our mouth and gets reflected back
Mm.
to us. That willingness to be impacted is crucial to legacy building, because if we are what's called in relationship research impervious to impact,
Mm.
we can't grow, because there, as you and I know, there are things we know about ourselves that others know about us, things we know about ourselves that others don't know about us, and things others know about our impact that we don't know about our impact. So if we're impervious to influence, rather, around that, if we're impervious to learning about what others recognize about our impacts that we don't recognize ourselves, whether unintended impacts or golden impacts, we're depriving ourselves of the feedback loop we need in order to elevate our ability to actualize our purpose.
And that is such a big thing. I mean, in all areas of leadership, but especially in the anything that's structural and organizational. Because as you know, the more we move up in positions of leadership, it's difficult because people have trust issues sharing that feedback. And, I tell people, when you're trying to understand your unintended impacts, it's almost impossible alone because now you're guessing. Now there are clues. There are clues because you act a certain way or don't act a certain way. You say something or don't, and you get a reaction that doesn't seem to fit your intention. That's a clue. That is a clue to dive in and maybe ask that question, and hopefully you've built enough trust to get an answer.
And
But without
hopefully,
that,
I'm sorry, I was going to add, and hopefully you have enough internal well being rather than being caught up in the not good enough script to be able to look on that without shaming yourself.
oh, yes. Yeah, yeah. Shame just, well, and shame comes from my unconscious. Even though I'm conscious of the shame, the driver got triggered in the unconscious. That's the problem. It comes up and there it is. And I go, oh, that's my shame. But what am I going to do with it now? And I think that piece of having that relational trust with people around us, that they can offer the impact that they had or the impact I had, or if I catch that, that doesn't make sense, and could say, David, it seems like I may have had an impact that I didn't intend. Are you willing to tell me? And that's a trust thing, but
Beautiful.
I got to get that information. I need that data because otherwise I'm running around
Yeah,
thinking, boy, my intentions were great today. I must have had great impact today.
exactly.
Good luck with
Exactly.
that.
So, after our upcoming break, we'll return for our episode's final segment, during which I'll be asking Jeff to reveal how he helps leaders, influencers, and you magnify your ripples of impact and leave your best legacy. I'm Dr. David Gruder. This is the Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours show on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, and we will return shortly. Well, before the break, next gen ripples of impact ruckus catalyst Jeff Nischwitz and I discussed ingredients to look for when you want to boost your impact in your own unique ways. And as I already mentioned during the final segment of this episode called The Future of Intentional Impact, Crafting Ripples of Legacy, Jeff's going to tell us how he provides what we suggested in the last segment that you look for. I'll then let you know the best way to discover Jeff's marvelous resources and to get in touch with him. And after that, Jeff and I will each share the big takeaways we hope you've gained from this episode, followed by my closing comments. So, Jeff, how do you help leaders, influencers, and purpose-driven individuals boost their ripples of impact?
Yeah, a couple ways, two or three ways that depend a lot on how deep someone's willing to go. So some of it is telling, and it's really not so much telling as an invitation. And it's just what you talked about. It's an invitation to growing. And I love your phrase. You've shared it before. My impact literacy, my impact literacy, and getting just people to make that shift to understand that what matters is the impact, including unintended, and taking ownership and responsibility of that, because a lot of leaders don't even get that idea of taking ownership. And one thing I will tell positional leaders is one of the keys to your leadership is over ownership. If you have any doubt, any possibility that you impacted this or could have, own it. People love that. They are so used to leaders who don't own much or only own the easy stuff. So owning the hard stuff is a start. So number one is becoming more um, literate with their impact and owning that impact. A second part is I use questions a lot in my coaching, and what I'm looking for are patterns. And what the patterns allow me to do is help people find the core story. Because if we can see I always tell people if their behavior seems crazy, let's find a story that makes it seem logical in the craziness. And that's the thread we start pulling on. I call myself a thread puller. Use the questions. Let's find a pattern and let's go back to that core story so we can look at the story and say, well, that's not true. Okay, but that's not enough. If you just look at the story and say that's not true, that's not going to work. But how do we start rewriting a new story? And so we're simultaneously letting go of the old, inviting the new. And part of that is being a sharp-edged mirror for people in terms of, call it telling them the truth, telling them what I see, but also blessing them and helping them to see their gold. I can tell you this, I just did this week with a man who really is struggling with how he sees himself, and he's been in this world for a long time. A lot of people see him as brilliant, and in fact, one of his coworkers, the person he reports to, described him, and I'm going to do the brief version. She said, what he's able to do in connecting with people is pure magic. It is pure magic, and very few people I've ever met can do what he does. And yet, in talking to him, all he seems to see is where he messed up. He can't see the magic creator. He kind of knows the magic creator's there, but he can't see that because that voice of, who do you think you are? You're not good enough. Continually, I call it the goggles, the shame goggles. He sees where he tripped up. He sees this small mistake and misses the brilliant. And so I help people take those goggles off. Even if it's just this metaphorically, David, here's the goggles. Can you take them down for a second and just see the glory of you? And even if you put these back on, that's in there. And then the next time we're going to plant the seeds, and maybe we can keep them off longer. So teaching around awareness and ownership, helping people through the pattern spotting and the questions and the thread pulling to get them back to the story and help them reframe and rewrite the story, but feeding them with the gold that I see and that the gold that they already know exists. So maybe they can open enough space to let it in.
Well, that's a beautiful example of the way to create the solution that we talked about in the last segment that people would be wise to look for. So you help people grow their impact literacy, including owning their unintended impacts and dealing with that, because people love it when anyone owns this, especially leaders. You help people spot patterns that enable them to find their core story, the thread pulling that you mentioned, to spot the source of their shame goggles. You help them reframe and rewrite a new story that actually supports them in living their purpose and having conscious relationship with ripples of impact. And you do that through what I know you share this opinion with me, what we both see lacking too much of the time in the world, which is this mystical marriage, if you will, between two fundamental forms of love: the feminine consciousness in all of us. This has nothing to do with men and women. Feminine archetypal consciousness in all of us that's about blessing or nurturance, and the archetypal masculine consciousness in all of us, that form of love, which is about challenge, because challenge without nurturance breeds shame, and nurturance without challenge breeds entitlement and narcissism and all of that. And so this is your secret sauce. This is what you embody with the people that you work with to help them step into conscious relationship with positive impact and positive legacy.
And it's funny that you would describe it that way, but not surprising, David, because in my last coaching session of myself with my coach, she was asking me to come up with things that best describe how I show up in the world and simplify it, not all the big language.
Right.
And the phrase I came up with was fierce and tender at the exact same moment, but moving to one or the other depending on what the need is.
Exactly.
But
that's
fierce
unusual.
and tender.
That blend, that marriage, which is so crucial, is not common enough in the world yet. So among Jeff's many amazing resources for bringing out the best in individuals and organizations, Jeff leads powerful small group in-person experiences that guide men in embracing and tapping into their natural sovereign energy by reclaiming their authentic power so they can amplify their leadership and live a richer life. You can learn about Jeff's Awaken Your King retreats, as well as all of the rest of his great resources for both men and women through this simplified forwarding link. Thecess.com, that's my Center for Enlightened Self-Sovereignty, THECCS.com/Jeff, Jeff. That's the simplified link that'll take you to a page that has a long URL. If you've tuned into this episode prior to mid-November 2025, he might still have a seat for you in the Awaken Your King retreat he's holding in Tampa, Florida, from November 13th through 16th, 2025. So jump on that opportunity or his next upcoming retreat.
There'll be more. There
right
will be
away,
more.
I'm sure. So again, that's thecess.com/Jeff, THECESS.com/Jeff. While you're there, be sure to explore his full range of resources for both men and women, for individuals and organizations, so you can select the one that's your best fit. So, Jeff, very quickly, and I really mean one short, non-run-on sentence, what's the big takeaway you want people to come away from this episode with?
Impact is about moments, not monuments.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And mine is mastering the art of creating ripples of positive impact is for all of us, because becoming effective at this is an essential ingredient in living a fulfilling, meaningful life that far too few of us do well. So again, make sure you visit thecess.com/Jeff. Thank you so very much, Jeff, for your ripples of impact and bringing your wisdom about how we each can leave our best legacy by boosting our ripples of impact in our own unique ways, and for being here on my show.
Thank you, David. This was a pleasure and just juicy. And I knew it would be juicy, juicy, juicy.
Well, whenever you and I talk, it is juicy. And I'm very quickly going to put in a plug for the Mankind Project, since you're a certified leader in that nonprofit international organization, and I'm what's called a certified ritual elder in it. And so what you can do is go to mkp.org. Mankind Project is mkp.org. And that way you can access whatever section of the Mankind Project website is relevant to where you are in the world. So thank you all for joining me for this episode of Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. This has been Dr. David Gruder, the polymath of human potential and societal psychotherapist, who equips leading-edge leaders, influencers, and you with impactful resilience that makes it possible for humanity's most spiritually elevated future to at last emerge. I invite you to explore my main website, drgruder.com. That's drgruder.com, where you'll find a link to watch or listen to all of this show's episodes, as well as a link to the Center for Enlightened Self-Sovereignty, which is helping to dissolve divisiveness by reuniting individuals, businesses, nations, and humanity, so we can at last usher in the age of what I call spiritual self-sovereignty that serves us all. The world needs you. Your nation needs you. Your loved ones need you. You need you. Boost your impact in helping the future you most want to emerge. I enthusiastically invite you to tune in next time for another spell-busting, uplifting, and actionable episode on how together we can and will build a better future for ourselves and for humanity.